Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, where we do interviews with interesting and inspiring folks like our new friend Belinda here. For our listeners, that's you, to find the resources, tools, and support you need to be your best inspired selves. Hi, Belinda.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm fabulous, and I'm just so honored to be here and to share whatever we can to help people out there.
Oh, thank you. I'm super excited to have you here as well. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, but uh, the thing that really resonated with me when I first read information about you was that the book title that you had just come out saying "Find Your Friggin Joy." It cracked me up a little bit, so I was like, "Oh, she's funny and she has great skills." Um, so that was sort of what started my journey in wanting to know a little bit more about you. But what would you like the audience to know about you, Belinda, and what kind of work you're doing?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've been through the ups and downs and in the mud and, just in the highs and lows, and I'm still here. So it's just, again, we have to dig in deeper into ourselves to find that strength, I guess, that we can overcome anything in our lives. Whatever God or the world slings at us, we've got to be able to be stronger than that and find an alternative. And that's what hopefully I have done. I just turned 75 this year.
Congratulations.
That's a biggie.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But I say that maybe I'm 57 because that's dyslexic,
There you
instead of
go. I like
75.
it.
Yeah.
I like it. That's
But
beautiful.
I love to laugh, and I think the divinity has a sense of humor as well, because when I said "Find Your Friggin Joy" to a friend of mine, and she had never laughed a lot in her life, she had always been very serious, and I said to her one day, "Find your friggin joy," and she just couldn't stop laughing, and I remembered that. So when it came time to find a title for my book, I thought, I want to make people laugh as well, because laughter is so
Yeah.
healing. Ergo, there
There
it
you
is.
go. The great title. I was watching on Hay House yesterday. They're having a healing summit right now, and the speaker was a Reverend, I want to say Reverend Ileana, but she's on Oprah or something fancy like that. But she said the most adorable thing that relates to Find Your Friggin Joy. She said, spiritual folks got to learn to start laughing more. She said, we walk around
Amen.
like, oh, she's like,
Yeah.
but sometimes stuff is just not funny at all and you have to laugh, or so funny you have to laugh. She said, I think we need to make a spiritual cuss word. Like one we're allowed to say. Like we don't say F, we don't say B, we don't say any of those now. But what are you allowed to say when you've just, got to unleash something? So I thought that was it was very poignant.
Friggin joy.
Yeah, that's right. Friggin's a good one. Although I would tell my kids that I know what they was thinking, but
Yeah, that's true. Well, anyway, we've got to have some secrets within
yeah,
ourselves, but laughter is healing. And
absolutely.
so it's the ha. When I studied Huna, which is ancient Hawaiian healing, we had to learn how to do the ha breath. And so that was taking a deep conscious breath to the top of our head, and then ha, and then releasing it with a ha. Well, it's the same with laughter. You laugh, you go ha 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 ha. And so it's a very sacred sound, even with the breath and even with the laughter. So yeah, I do ha breathing a lot, a
I
lot.
do as well. Mostly to I tend to run a little fast and hot. And
Ah,
so when I need to sort of embrace my pause, I just stop, breathe, pay attention,
that's
yeah,
right.
and then move forward and just try to be a little bit more mindful. Um, so what made you like, how did the book Finding Your Joy, how did this even sort of come out of you? What was the reason for it?
I'm not a very disciplined person. I didn't think I was. And I was, a student of spiritual teachings, and hypnosis and learned how to do past life regression. And eventually I was sent to Hawaii to do a master course in hypnosis. I'm not a really good swimmer, and I didn't even really like the ocean. There I was in an island surrounded by water, right? And I started doing this ha breathing and an exercise, and all of a sudden, these dolphins and these whales started coming into my psyche. And they never had been on my radar. I had no affinity towards the ocean. It was like, fine, it's there, but it wasn't for me. And then all of a sudden, my dreams at night were filled with dolphins and whales teaching me how to swim. So the next day I had to get up and I had to go be with them, and I had to conquer my fear of the ocean to be with them. So they are the ones that started to teach me how to swim, and how I did seminars for 25 years, taking people to swim with the wild spinner dolphins. And I would watch them in a pod, and they would have to come up to breathe every 7 minutes. If they didn't breathe every 7 minutes, they would die. And so I learned that if I don't take that deep breath at least every 7 minutes, I kind of die a spiritual death, because I allow a lot of fight or flight to come in. When you panic breathe, which most people do through their chest and through their mouth, like that, then they go into depression, total depression. So I have to remind myself, and hopefully people out there, to take a deep breath through the nose, like you're filling a glass of water at the top of your head, and then and it just calms you down. The answers are all inside of us. They're not out there. They're all in here. When we start to breathe, start to connect to the powerful person that we are inside, we overcome so many obstacles.
That sounds so beautiful. So I've heard of a lot of different techniques, healing techniques. Even Hawaiian recently just, I think it's called Ho'oponopono.
Perfect.
Okay, but I'd never really
Perfect.
heard of the Huna as before, and I think that was something you had brought up. What is that, and how does it support people?
Well, Huna means secret. These were the ancient Hawaiian secrets that were sequestered, I guess, during a time of superstition. When the missionaries came over, they saw everything that was they couldn't understand. They put it under the umbrella of some kind of superstition, and the kahunas would be imprisoned, and you weren't allowed to practice, healing techniques like this. A man, he was a teacher, Max Freedom Long, came to the island in 1917, and he saw what these kahunas were doing, these amazing healings, and he said, well, where's the book that shows me how to do it? It wasn't written. So he decided to write these books. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here now teaching this. I wouldn't have used these techniques to heal my own back 20 years ago, when I was told I was never going to walk again. I had no insurance. I only used the Ho'oponopono that you talked about, the forgiveness process. I used all of that, and I healed within a month that I was in bed, completely aligned. My spine was aligned. I had a brand new spine because I was born with scoliosis. Gone. It was completely gone. All I had asked for was that I could walk again, because I couldn't walk at the time, couldn't sit, couldn't stand. Not only walk, but I could climb trees again if I really wanted to. So the Huna is, again, an ancient teaching where we go inside and take responsibility for everything that happens to us. So if we're the creators, then we can uncreate it. And it has to do with forgiving yourself for the way that you've interpreted certain things in your life, and you want to let them go so the darkness can escape and the light can come in. And that's what it does. And my book outlines the Ho'oponopono, talks about how I overcame all of this and how you can too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, some of the, I've studied some of things by Dr. Vitali and Dr. Lin. He, I think he's retired now. He talks a lot about when he helped heal a bunch of mental patients that were actually in.
Oh, Dr. Ihiliakalalen.
Yeah,
Yes, a good friend of mine.
he has way more words in there, yes, but I got
Yes.
the Lynn part. Yeah, so it's very, very interesting just even hearing the stories. And I think what resonates for me, then I was brought up Catholic, right? So
I was too.
oh, fair enough. Well, maybe that's what, but I actually really appreciate the idea that it starts with me, like taking
Yes,
personal responsibility actually is empowering, because that means if I broke it, I can fix it. But
absolutely.
if I give my, power completely away, or just say it just, what happens happens, or, someone will change it for me, it can leave you feeling a little helpless, I think.
Absolutely. And with no other choices, too. I mean, in a way, genetically, you have a tendency towards the things that, are in your family. But you can also change, because if you have a different environment, your environment helps to alter the way you're looking at things or the way you believe in things. So it's, I guess I'm quoting Biology of Belief. That's a book that was written by Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's one of my favorite people. And he's a doctor, a medical doctor, and he says, absolutely, you can change anything. Even if you were born in a certain genetic tendency, you can make that change. So,
So
yeah,
what
it's
happened to
exciting.
you that you hurt your back? Were you in an accident, or?
I was a stunt car driver for
Ah,
almost 10 years. Yeah.
that's way more fun than what I do for a living.
When I got divorced at 40, I started to really get out there and kind of do what I never had done before. And I started going to seminars with Tony Robbins, and we did firewalks. And so when you walk on 2,000 degrees of hot coals, you say to yourself, wow, if I can do this and not burn, then what else can I do that I didn't think I could do? And so what came up for me was I had always wanted to drive a race car. And Tony teaches you, you can't say you can't. If you say you can't, you must. And if you must, you will. So I thought, okay, I can. I'll find out where I can go learn how to drive a race car. So that's how it started. I just went to a school, the Bob Bondurant School of High Performance Driving, that was in Sonoma. And I signed up for the Grand Prix road racing course, scared to death.
I bet.
Scared to death. And I just thought, I know nothing, I can't even drive a stick shift. Teach me and I'll be here. I'll do the best I can. Well, it turned out I did have some talent. And so at the end of the 4 days, they hired me to drive for Buick and Cadillac in New York. And my stunt driving career began. When
That's amazing.
I came back home, and they created a stunt course for me at the racetrack. And I got a partner, and we started doing jobs. And it was the most exciting, exhilarating time of my life. I loved it. And I was also an actress. So I had been doing some commercials and things like that. I was in the business. So this just added to my resume, and it was fun. But my back was getting compromised, not just because of the racing and the stunt car driving, because I didn't rest. I didn't listen to my body. I would not rest or lie down. I'd go bike riding or I'd go rollerblading. I was an adrenaline junkie. And I was also saying things to myself that were not appropriate. Like all my life, I started to examine, what was I saying to myself? And it turns out I was saying, I can't be supported. And I had been raised in a family that had gone through the Great Depression, and so money was scarce. So it was like, okay, I can't be supported. It just was very debilitating. And so when you're saying that inside yourself, your unconscious mind, which runs your body, is the one that's supporting you because it's hearing all of this. And so the back completely collapsed. I didn't believe it was supporting me, so it didn't. That was the instruction that I gave it. So then I had to reverse everything and say, thank you for remembering to support me. Thank you for regenerating. Regenerating became the key word, because I would say that a million times a day. Thank you for regenerating. And whatever you say, it begins to put into practice. And so in no time, I had turned things around. And also in my book, I talk about a dream that I had, or it was a memory that came up from my back. And it was about a little girl that had been, or a fetus had been thrown away into the universe like just a piece of garbage. And that came up. And she was just hurling in space, with comets and asteroids and darting through all this debris. And then finally, these hands, they seemed like very sacred hands, just lifted her up and placed her very safely in the arms of this divine being that was way above all the chaos. And she felt safe, she felt accepted, she felt just loved. And when I woke up, I was in a pool of sweat, and I had this desire that I had to call my mother to find out about my birth. She wouldn't really tell me the true things about the birth. Finally, she did. And as it turned out, I had been taken to 3 abortion clinics. And it was just apparent that, I wasn't really wanted at that time. So my whole life, I had been trying to feel worthy to receive love. And so you work extra hard. It's not something that is just like your divine right, which it is, but you just start to think, I've got to do this really good or else that person won't love me, or you're trying to earn love. And then I just relaxed when that memory came up, because I realized that I was loved by my divine parents inside me, maybe not by my outside parents, but I was okay. And so I relaxed, and it really started the healing wheel to go, because once I had that realization, I could start seeing myself climbing trees. And the unconscious mind has to get excited about what it is that it's changing for you. So it sends up this memory of a person climbing trees who has to have a good back, right, to climb a tree. So he sends that up the pipeline, and the higher self brings it down in the physical body, and I was healed.
That's amazing. That's
It's
amazing.
like you have to get yourself out of the way. Prayer is something where you already see yourself having experienced that which you're asking for. So I had to see myself climbing trees, and that person has to have a good back to climb the tree.
Yeah, someone, I don't know where it came from, but I had heard once that healing only comes from a place of curiosity, not from a place of judgment. And so it sounds like you had to kind of get to a place where you were not judging your origins, not judging your, just like, oh, wow, look, I can climb a tree. Oh,
Yes,
look what
finally.
I can do. Yeah. It sounds beautiful. And you know what? I don't know. It's very interesting to me. I think you're like the 3rd or 4th person, and I've only done about 120 episodes of my podcast. But of that small population, you're the 3rd or 4th person that's their origin story of their healing journey has been about a back problem. I think there's a couple famous people too, like Hal Elrod, Brendan Burchard. They're kind of like Tony Robbins' younger siblings, kind of like these young guys, right, that are doing stuff. And both of them had major car accidents, and that had caused them to be debilitated. And so a lot of the very big healing stories that I've heard seem to be people who literally couldn't move.
Well,
And
support is a big issue. If you don't feel supported by your family, you don't feel supported by the world, just support. That's the back. So I had to go and look at a tree, and the tree represented my back and how strong it was. So I had to visually take that in and just feel that support. And the roots, you know, are the unconscious, the parts of you that are running your body. It's very symbolic, just very symbolic. I haven't had any back issues for 20 some odd years, knock on wood. I mean, I still honor the back, and I play tennis, and I used to rollerblade. I do a lot of ping pong, a lot of walking,
Yeah,
and
that's great.
really stretching, you know, stretching. And
Keep yourself nice and tall. So how, so this just been an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing.
okay.
How do you use these teachings that you now have to support other people? Like, how does this gift get transferred to someone else? If someone, like, if our audience member is struggling, what would they be struggling with that would make them potentially come to you for support?
Well, like for instance, I have a client that's going to call me this afternoon from Puerto Rico, and he's got some issues, and I'm going to guide him through the forgiveness process, the Ho'oponopono, where you actually put the people that you are courting yourself with, from your mother and father and your ancestors, and people of, you know, your teachers, your mentors, your friends, just everything, the way you look at money, the way you look at the government, the way you look at whatever is going on in the world. This is the film that's occurring inside of you. So you'll put all those down below you on a stage, and then I'll guide him or her to say, I love you, I'm sorry, I forgive you, thank you. Just 4 phrases, because the person you're forgiving is yourself. And then you take a cutting instrument. This is where Dr. Len and I, we have different techniques of doing this same process, but he's wonderful. Anyway, you take a cutting instrument and you spin it around you, like a knife, a scissors, even a chainsaw you can use. And then you watch the people float away, or just feel that energy is leaving you. You're changing the way you're looking at what happened to you. So it's all about yourself. You can't change the event, it's already happened. The only way you can change anything is to change the way you're looking at it.
Yeah.
So,
That's very, very beautiful. I also saw something yet recently with, I want to say Deepak Chopra. I always say his
oh,
name wrong. And he said a very similar,
my mentor.
is he okay?
Oh, yeah.
It was a beautiful statement kind of about consciousness. And his point was distilled so that I could understand it was, we're all really just wearing glasses anyway, right? We're all living in our own version or our own perception, our own rose-colored glasses or dark color, whatever they are. And so if you want to see something differently, you know, put on different shades essentially
Yes.
and look through it with a new perspective. Is that kind of
That's a,
resonate for you with?
oh, yeah. I mean, he wears all kinds of rhinestone glasses and red glasses and green glasses. It's really cute.
Yeah, it's like
No,
a lot of flair.
he's an amazing spiritual teacher. One of my favorite books is a book he wrote called Power, Freedom, and Grace. And I look at that every day because it has excerpts in there from Rumi and just inspirational.
Amazing. So
Yes.
how can people get a hold of you if they're looking for, you know, looking for a healing practitioner or looking for a Huna guide or someone just to talk to see if you're the right fit?
Well, my website is Huna Healing, Huna healing.com. Has my has my email address and also another telephone number. We can email and see if it's appropriate for us to do a phone session, because
Wonderful.
people come from all over the world. I do long distance healing. Um, it's, you know, it's possible if you really want to heal, if you really want to make a change. You have to really want to do this, because nobody can force you. All I do is provide the door to open, and then you have to walk through it.
Well, that's so beautiful. Well, Belinda, thank you so much for making time in your day to meet with
Oh,
us here on the Press Play Lifestyle. I really appreciate it, and I guess I'm glad I've recently been reading some good books that gave me something to talk about with you.
well, it was just so much fun. I love this.
Oh, I think it's a lot of fun as well. And you know, it seems like you keep writing books, so you let us know the next time something else fun happens and
Oh, yeah.
chat again.
Again, thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.